Well, thanks for coming to this screening of Ed Wood. It's a film that I'm proud to have been a part of, along with a whole lot of other really talented people. I mean, that's something I love about the film industry, is that it gives jobs to weirdos like me, you know? And there's so many, a film takes so many different talented people, and I know that, speaking for myself, I couldn't have a regular job. You know, I couldn't survive in an office. My brain doesn't work that way. You know, so I'm very thankful to the film industry for giving me a job and for giving a lot of creative people jobs. And let's hope that it continues that way. So, how many people here have already seen Ed Wood? Okay, already a lot. How many people here knew who Ed Wood was before this movie came out? A pretty good number. I knew. I am not ashamed to admit that I'm an Ed Wood fan. I mean, his films are terrible, but there's good kind of terrible. You know, they're very watchable. I've seen Bride of the Monster and Glinda Glinda and you know, almost all of his films numerous times, and I continue to enjoy them. You know, so the way I got involved with this film, somebody in my studio brought in a trade paper that said Tim Burton's making a film about Ed Wood starring Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi. And as soon as I read that, I said, I have to do this. I was born to do this. You know? The problem was I was actually on another movie at the time, but I had just a couple makeups I was doing, and there were moments in between where I could design and prepare a makeup. So I did something that I never normally do. In fact, I don't know how I was ever successful, because I don't have an agent. I had an unlisted phone number. I was kind of like the Bill Murray of makeup effects, you know? And, but I did something. I knew Tim. I met Tim and Rick Heinrichs when they were right out of Cal Arts. A good friend of mine, Kelly Kimball, who's the daughter of Ward Kimball, one of the 9 old men at Disney, one of the famous animators, said there's these 2 kids that came out of Cal Arts that you really need to meet. And I went to Disney, I met them. I think they were working on Vincent at the time. And we talked for a while, and they had a film project called Trick or Treat, I think it was, they talked to me about. Never happened, but I knew Tim. So like when I read that, I went, you know, like I said, I have to do this. I'm a Tim Burton fan, I'm a Bela Lugosi fan, I'm a Martin Landau fan. I mean, Martin was the makeup guy played the makeup guy in Mission Impossible. He was in Outer Limits and a number of things, so it's like, I gotta do this. So I called him, I explained my situation, that I had another film, but I would love to design this, or any makeups I could for this. And I knew that Tim had a working relationship with V. Neal. I've known V since the early 70s. And I said, you know, I can design, and my studio can make all the appliances for the production, but I won't be able to apply the makeup through the whole show, or at all, actually. I didn't, but I was happy. I said, if you're happy with V doing it, I'm happy with V doing the application on a daily basis. So he said, yeah, and I said, you know, I'll give you a deal. If you just, you know, it's basically time and materials for my crew. I'll just donate my time. I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing my voice. I hope I can make it through all of this. So then after I called him, he said yes. Then I became more serious about it, and I started looking at pictures of Martin Landau and Bela Lugosi, Lugosi's face that I knew quite well anyways. But then I went, Rick, maybe you shouldn't have done this. You know, I mean, Martin's face, you know, Martin has a very rectangular face and a very full upper lip. Bela had a very round face, and he has a very thin upper lip, but a big distance between his nose and his thin upper lip. And I just went, I don't really know if I can do this. And I mean, the likenesses are impossible anyways, and doing a likeness on somebody else's face is very difficult. And like I said, I was stressing out about this some, and then I got the script by Scott and Larry, whatever the fuck their last name is. It'll be on there. It'll be on the credits. I mean, I always knew them as Scott and Larry, and I didn't know which one was which. You know? So it's always Scott and Larry, and most of the time they were together. But recently, I was actually at an Academy event, and Larry was there, and I asked him which one he was. You know, so he gave me a way to remember it. You know, the black eye healed in a few weeks. It was, you know, but the script was great. I couldn't believe how great the script was, and how real and how human Ed Wood and Bela were in the script. And I really said to myself that this needs to be a less is more makeup. It shouldn't. I didn't want Bela to be a rubber face in this film, and that made it even more difficult. You know? So I got Martin to my studio. I took a life mask of him. I had a great time with him talking about Outer Limits and Mission Impossible. And when I got his cast done, as I normally do, I painted it the color of the plasticine that I used, and set it up on a sculpture stand, and next to it I had a cast of Bela Lugosi that Clay Campbell took for a film called Return of the Vampire, where he made a wax head with a plaster skull, and there was a melting effect in the film, which unfortunately they cut away to a reaction, and the coolest part of the melting isn't in there. I don't know if, I wish somebody had that footage. I'd love to see the whole effect. But anyways, I had those two life masks, and again, I was questioning, you know, this could be the end of your career, Rick. You know, they look so not similar, you know, but I thought, after I panicked for a little while, I just said, I'm just going to start. I'm going to start with the obvious. Started with the nose. You know, Lugosi has a big nose, kind of like mine, you know, so I did the nose. I covered Martin's upper lip. I did a lower lip appliance. I put a cleft chin, very much like what I have under this beard. Added ears, sculpted the hair on it, and looked at it and went, shit. You know, I was like, does this look like Bela? I don't know, you know. And I said, you know, I was really tempted to pack clay on the side of his head, but I said, go with what you originally felt, Rick. This should be a less is more makeup. He's got to be very real to make this movie work right. So I had a lot of faith that Martin would pull it off. So I got Martin out to my studio for a test. Tim came with a camera crew. I made him up very realistically. I'm not like a Dracula, you know, like Bela walking down the street, you know. And again, I was like shaking my head. I was going, this may be the end of your career, Rick. He went out, Tim looked at it, and we were both kind of looking at each other and going, I don't know, is this going to work? And we were looking at a color monitor, and we both kind of said, you know, we're so used to seeing Bela in black and white, you know, so so let's turn off the saturation on it, and then it looked better, you know. But it was, you know, the makeup test. Martin wasn't really, you know, prepared to do the role. He was just there for me to look at the thing in front of the camera, the makeup's in front of the camera. But I said, you know, hang on a second, Tim. And I went and I had a syringe in my office, and I brought the syringe out. I go, give Martin a syringe and see if he can play with this some. So when he got the syringe, he started, you know, becoming Bela a little bit more. And when he started turning it on, we could see that we thought it was going to work.
Beware, beware, beware of the big green dragon that sits on your doorstep. He eats little boys, puppy dog tails, and big fat snails. Beware, take care. Beware. Wait! Pull the string! Pull the string!
It's not an exact likeness of Bela, you know, but it's, I think, the essence of Bela, and I think I really ended up making the right decision for this film, and that's about all I have to say. So I hope you enjoy the film very much. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Pull the string! Pull the string! mistakes made. A story must be told.